going on YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Colorado Avalanche getting eliminated in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's right, the Avs are officially done here in 2023. They had a very interesting series with the Seattle Kraken. They lost Game 5, went down 3-2 in this series. Came back to send this to Game 7. They won a tough game in Seattle in Game 6. And against pretty much all odds, the Seattle Kraken and the Florida Panthers both shocked the hockey world, knocking off the defending Stanley Cup champions and the President's Trophy team in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Two wild cards getting to the second round of the playoffs. And the Seattle Kraken, in a very spirited, inspiring season all of a sudden, the Colorado Avalanche find themselves packing their bags way earlier than we thought. So, when you look at the Colorado Avalanche during the regular season, they had another 50-win season. Really good season for the Avs in that regard. 109 points, first in the Central Division. They were kind of fighting it out at the end of the year with Dallas and Minnesota to get that top spot. And the assumption was they would have an easier matchup against one of the Pacific team wild card spots, right? Whether that was Calgary, Seattle, maybe not LA, but you look at all those teams and you're thinking that's a pretty good matchup. I'd rather play them than the Dallas Stars or the Minnesota Wild. And that's exactly what Colorado got. They got what they wanted. But Seattle had other plans. And I think what we saw was the injuries definitely playing a factor in this series, no doubt. The Cale Makar suspension definitely hurt them in Game 5. And the lack of depth on this team. This team is not what they had last year. Just to list off some guys that were out in Game 7. Now, we know Landeskog missed the entirety of the series and probably wasn't expected till maybe the Stanley Cup final if they got that far. So you got Landeskog. You have Darren Helm, Andrew Cogliano, Josh Manson, and Val Nichushkin. Now, Nichushkin, we know, is a different situation. It's not necessarily due to injury, but nonetheless, it's not in the lineup. So now you're missing Helm, Cogliano, and Nichushkin. So you're missing a top 6 winger in Nichushkin and 2 bottom 6 guys, right? 2 bottom 6 forwards, and a top 4 defenseman in Manson. So just like that, you're just completely butchering this team. And we kind of saw that kind of come to fruition. Now, you look during the offseason, Mikko Rantanen played well. Devon Toews, Nathan MacKinnon, all those guys played well for the Colorado Avalanche. And this reminds me a lot of the Bruins thing. The problem is, it's once you get past Makar and Evan Rodriguez, you didn't see enough production other than that. You didn't see enough from Bowen Byram. Had a goal taken away, but Bowen Byram, JT Compher, Sammy Girard, Eric Johnson, you didn't see enough from those guys. Alex Newhook did not play very well. You needed to see a little bit more from some of those guys. And, you look at a guy like Lars Eller, who didn't even register a point in the series. Cogliano also didn't register a point. The lack of depth on this team is kind of what did them in. And the top half of this team, very talented, right? Rantanen, Toews, MacKinnon, Lehkonen, Makar. I like those guys. Those are all really good players. But once you get to the bottom 6 and your third pair defense, that's where things tragically fall off for the Avalanche. It was a huge reason that they didn't really go too far in the postseason. Now, you can't really blame Georgiev here. He had a .914 save percentage. It's not like he played bad. Can't really put this one on him. But he did get outdueled by Philip Grubauer. Grubauer, yes, I know, former Avs goalie. He played really well in this series for the Kraken. He was definitely very spirited. But, you kind of sit here and you say to yourself, is this not kind of what we were maybe worried about if you were an Avs fan? Was the lack of depth on this team? And kind of saw that come to the forefront in this series. Just there wasn't enough gas left in the tank, even with guys like Rantanen and MacKinnon on this team. So you look at what they're going in the offseason into, a bunch of UFAs. You got JT Compher, Lars Eller, Evan Rodriguez, Andrew Cogliano, Darren Helm, and Matt Nieto. Those are all UFAs up front. You also have a couple RFAs. You have Ben Myers, Alex Newhook, and Dennis Malgin. So a couple of interesting guys there. You also have a couple of guys in the on the defensive side of things, Eric Johnson and Jack Johnson. So I do not think we will see either of the Johnsons next season in Colorado. And you've also got Bowen Byram coming off of his entry-level deal. He is going to be an RFA without arbitration this summer. So there's a lot of interesting pieces here in Colorado that need to get re-signed. If just quickly running through this, I think a bunch of the guys that you're looking at that will not be there. I think JT Compher is probably gone. Lars Eller probably gone. I think they're going to try to keep Evan Rodriguez. Cogliano and Helm, I would say they're gone. Same thing for Matt Nieto. Just kind of rebuild that bottom six, but keep a guy like Rodriguez because he actually performed quite well in the playoffs. Definitely keeping a guy like Newhook. I have questions about him, but for what, again, what is his value, right? He didn't even register a point. He was a -4 during this series. The value probably isn't going to be there much for Alex Newhook. So he's got to redevelop his game in Colorado. I just don't think it would be worth trading him. So sign him to a cheap deal, see what he can do, kind of on a prove-it deal for next season. On defense, like I said, don't expect either of the Johnsons back. And I would expect probably a 3 or 4 year bridge deal for Bowen Byram. I think he's a good defenseman. The Avalanche don't have the cap space to sign him to a big 8-year deal. So I think we could see a 3 or 4 year bridge contract, take him till he's 25, 26, and kind of go from there. In between the pipes, you're with Georgiev and Francouz. That's your tandem until 2024. I don't know what they're going to do with Keith Kincaid, but nonetheless, that is your goalie tandem, and that wasn't the problem in this series. So you can't really, I don't think they're going to do anything there. Looking in the system, the good news for the Avs is they have a couple of decent prospects left. I think you look at a guy like Oscar Olsson. He was a fairly sought after prospect. He was a first round pick back in 2021. And I think the 19th overall pick. So Oscar Olsson looks like a promising prospect. On the back end, really not much there. I guess Ryan Merkley, if you consider him a prospect still. But, that's kind of what you have in the system. Sampo Ranta, maybe. But other than that, this team is kind of lacking that depth in the prospect pool. Because, listen, they went for it last year and they went for it this year. And it didn't pay off this year. And, the Avalanche are in a spot where I think they're going to try and alleviate some cap space. You look at their current cap structure, they have a little over $13 million in cap space, and you could probably eat that up pretty quick, right? With Newhook, with Byram, and Evan Rodriguez, you're maybe looking at maybe $1 million, maybe $3 million left, right? Let's just say $3 million left after signing those 3 guys. That doesn't leave much room for the Avalanche to really do much here. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about maybe trading a guy like Sammy Girard. He just signed that extension, so I think that's going to be tough. I really don't think they want to trade Devon Toews, but you wonder if Devon Toews might be out of Colorado just because of their current situation. He has 1 year left on his deal. Would a team be willing to take him on? And again, now that you're taking a guy like Devon Toews, now that's hurting your blue line overall. So this is a tough situation for the staff there in Colorado. Chris McFarland has his hands full. He's probably going to have to get a little creative, but I think that the Avalanche are in for a little bit of a retool this summer. And, you'd like to run it back, but they don't have the depth. They remind me a lot of Pittsburgh in that sense. In the top high-end echelon guys, they can score, they can contribute, but the lack of depth in the bottom 6 really hurts this team. And unfortunately, they're an example of a team that really high expectations going into the playoffs and fell very short. They miss out on going to the second round. Really kind of shocking season for the Avalanche. Overall, the future still looks bright. You've got Nathan McKinnon, you've got Landeskog, you've got Makar, you've got Rantanen. I can't really sit here and say that it's all doom and gloom for this team. I think that's kind of crazy, but, the goaltending is a level of concern for me. Like I said, Georgiev played well, but if they had to play a team like Winnipeg or, let's just say, well, if they got further into the playoffs, one of the goalies from the East, you know, it's tough to play. You got to be able to battle against the best of the best, right? Could they match up against a Hellebuck or a Sorokin or an Ullmark? And that's kind of funny, but a Linus Ullmark or a Shesterkin or a Vasilevsky or an Ottinger. With Georgiev in between the pipes, I'm not too sold on that. I'm really not. And like I said, I think that's the least of their worries right now, but I think that is a reason for concern going into next season because, again, the window is right now for the Avalanche. It's not that I hate their goalie tandem. It's not, I don't think it's enough. But let me know what you guys think down below. What do you guys think of the Colorado Avalanche getting eliminated in 7 games by the Seattle Kraken? We're living in a loony world. The Leafs get past the first round. The Bruins and the Avalanche are out in the first round against wild card teams. It's incredible, but you can't make this stuff up. And I think for the Avalanche, it's going to be similar to the Bruins. You guys can kind of kumbaya together and whatnot. But, man, a really tough end to the season for the Avalanche. An impressive regular season, kind of ending in disappointment with failure in the postseason. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.